This is living now.
There's a growing level of discontent with the education system in Australia and in countries around the world. In Queensland in the last 5 years, homeschooling has doubled in response to this uneasiness. In this session, I'm going to share with you the reasons for this uneasiness and the ways that things need to change. First, just a bit about myself. I am a teacher by trade, and I taught in Victoria and Queensland. I did a bit of teaching overseas as well. But I never saw the issues associated with the education system, unlike many of you, until I heard a talk by a guy called Sir Ken Robinson. And in that talk called How Schools Kill Creativity, I discovered that education was not as I had seen it. He detailed how the education system had been set up in the industrial era and had used the conveyor belt or manufacturing process as the methodology or the philosophy of education. So they would take kids, they would batch them according to their year of manufacture. They would send them along a narrow line where inputs were put in at different stages whether or not the package was ready to contain them. And it was sent off along different pathways, but only very narrowly defined pathways. And the education system would then, at the end of that time, would spit them out at the other end, really having nothing, having no knowledge of what they would potentially want to do with their lives. I was so challenged by this that I had to do something about it. And with kids that had come along, I had 2 children, I had to come up with something that was relevant for them and something that didn't actively take away their creativity, but would promote that and nurture that. I started a homeschooling co-op called Schooling for Dreamers when my son was 5 years of age, and it worked, but it was still too like the schooling system. So we gave it a break, and for the next couple of years I spent that time researching and reading and viewing and watching and listening, just to try and wrap my head around what this thing called education could be. And I read into neuroscience, I read into the way the body develops, I read about how we learn best, how we grow and develop and change. And here in a nutshell is what I found. Might I add that this is becoming my thesis, and where I really want to challenge the education system and heretofore nail this to the arched doorways of the education establishment.